Hello, everyone. Professor Jones here. I am so excited, and I hope you guys are too, that we're going to now move into part two of our pattern making camp, where we're going to focus on um, the dart manipulation, how we can change the master patterns into our own designs. Okay, so we would we will be learning how to apply the principles and techniques to the master patterns in order to be able uh, to create our to change the patterns, to alter those patterns. In the process, you're also going to learn how to um, take a commercial pattern and alter the paper pattern using the personal measurements of your clients, so that when you lay the pattern on the fabric, cut it out, and you construct a garment, that you can be pretty sure that it's going to fit. So you don't make the garment first and then try to adjust the fabric. So uh, you first customize. You use the principles and techniques, the same ones we're going to use in the camp uh, for manipulating and moving darts around and different things, adding fullness and contouring. You use those same techniques and principles in order to make a customizable pattern, um, a customized pattern from your commercial patterns. So I wanted to give you guys, since you did so good on the drafting of the slopers, the master patterns, I wanted to give you guys a little something extra here. So what I'm going to do is draft the extended bodice. With the extended bodice, what you can do is use it as a foundation to draft dresses, blazers, coats, anything where the length of the top is to the hip line or below. Okay, so some of what we're going to do, you'll recall from the way that we drafted the short bodice, the original basic bodice. Here we're going to add the hip line. So we're going to be using a few more measurements than we used for the basic bodice. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just watch the video, take a few notes, and then practice it. Okay, all right. Now there's several ways, I always say this, that you can do this. Today I'm going to show you the way that I think is the simplest for doing it. So here what I have is my paper. My paper is folded in half. And the reason it's folded in half is because I'm going to draft the front and back extended bodice all at once. Okay, so uh, here we go. Okay, you see I've got my basic tools here, and you probably have realized by now that the 2x18 clear plastic ruler, your French curve, and your square, basically these are the main tools you need to have anytime you're going to start to draft a pattern. All right, so here we go. As usual, we have to have a top and a bottom. Now, because of the way I have the camera set up, I'm going to let this be the top. That'll be kind of odd for me because I'm right-handed, but I noticed that the way the camera is, it will be easier for you to understand if I go this way. All right, of course, this is my center front. So I'm going to start off with a pencil. I might at some time switch over to the marker. So this being the center front, I'm going to just put CF here, okay? And then I'm going to square a line straight across the page. This again will be the top, okay? Make sure you guys can see that. This is the top of my pattern. So in other words, this would be the shoulder. Now, since this is the center front, the next measurement I'm going to be using would be the full length, or in this case, it's going to be a little bit longer. The basic short bodice, the actual full length for that would be on the average woman between 16, well, between 16 and 18 inches. If we go below that to the hip line, it's going to end up being about maybe 20 to 22 inches. So since I'm doing the extended bodice, I'm going to measure from the top here. This is my full length, is going to be 22 inches. So this is 18. I'll show you this way. 19, 20, 21, 22. That's the bottom there. So 22 inches for the full length. Let me go ahead and square line straight across the bottom here. Okay. So then the next thing I'm going to do is mark all of the measurements where I need to draw a line across. These are definitely going to be the measurements that we should have had divided by 4. Okay, so these are the circumference measurements. This would be the neck, the chest, the bust, the waist, and since we're doing the extended bodice, the hip. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is the neck. Now, the neck divided by 4, in this case would be 3. So I'm going to put a mark here. This is my neckline. And since we're doing this, I'm going to square a line straight across. And this is my neckline. Then I'm going to, notice I'm starting from the top here, from the shoulder. The next thing I'm going to measure is going to be where my chest would be, which would be half of my armhole measurement. In this case, it would be 16. Half of my armhole measurement is going to be 8. So here, this would be my chest line. Square line straight across. Okay. The next thing I'm going to mark is my bust depth. The bust depth. How far from my shoulder is my bust line? And we talked about this before, that on the average woman, that's going to be anywhere from 9 to 11 inches. So we're going to come down to 10 here for my measurement for the bust line. So let's go ahead and square a line. So I'm just going to put an initial here. This is the chest line, this is the bust line, this is the neck. Okay, now we're going to the waist. The waistline is going to be from the shoulder down, is going to be 15 inches. Remember, we said it could be anywhere between 15 and 18, or on the average woman. That would be the length from the shoulder down to the waist, the full length. So let's go ahead and square a line straight across here. This would be the waistline. So I'm going to put a little W here. And on the average woman, from the waistline down to the fullest part of the hip depth, is going to be anywhere between 6 and 9. For us, it is 7. Okay, so I'm going to put an H here for the hip line. Okay, all right. Now that I have those measured, those lines marked there, now remember, these are measurements that should have been divided by now, right, into 4. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take those measurements and mark them. So here at let's start from the top. At the shoulder or the neckline up here at the top, I'm going to come across and measure half of the back width. I know I'm going kind of fast, but because we've drafted the other patterns, this should be something that's just the next step, a challenge. So then you'll have this video and you can stop it and slow it down. Anything you'd like to do in order to help you get the notes, get the steps, and be able to follow through. So at this point, this is my shoulder. Half of the shoulder width is going to be 8. All right. And then we're at the neckline, and the neck divided by 4 would be 3. And so this is the neck at the center front where it would be. I'm doing this backwards, so I kind of have to be careful so I can remember. And then up here at the shoulder, we can come over 3. Remember this? There we go, here. Okay. And then when we get to the chest divided by 4 is going to be 8 inches. Okay. The bust divided by 4 is going to be 8.5 inches. We're going to add a 1/2 inch ease to that, and that's going to, we're going to add, it's going to be 8.5. We're going to add 1/4. Because remember, when you add ease in, you're not just adding it to one piece, you're adding it 4 different times. And when you add that up, you don't want it to be too much. Okay, so now we've got the bust. Let's get to the waist. Now, the waist divided by 4 is going to be 6. Okay, but we have to add our dart in here. And just for this example, I'm going to add 1 inch for the dart. That would put me at 7, right? Okay. All right. Now let's go down. Remember, this is an extra measurement because we're going down to the hip line, and the hip divided by 4 is going to be 10. Okay. Now that we have all of these measurements here, what we can do is go ahead and we can connect these. So if I connect these like they are right now, oh, look at that waistline. Okay, that's not right. Glad I caught that. Okay, so we're going to have 8, and then we're going to have 9 because we're adding in that dart. Okay, this is the waist. I'm just correcting the measurement on there, and I can just get rid of this. Okay. All right, so now what I can do is connect everything here at the side. And I'm just making a little broken line here because I know I'm going to go back and take my curved ruler and make everything all nice and pretty later on. Okay. All right, so now we've got our side. Okay. And so now we're going to go up here to our shoulder. And at the shoulder, we're going to come down 1 inch. Remember, we talked about the sloper, the shoulder slope. So if this is the waist and I did this, okay, that's where this slope would come into play, right? Okay, so we know we're going down 1 inch here from the shoulder line here. Once we come down for the slope, we're going to connect it to the neckline, and this will be our shoulder length. Okay. And I can also now go ahead and take my curved ruler, and I can put in my, I can draw in my neckline here. All I'm doing here is making sure that I don't go in too deep. And remember, we talked about, I'll just do it this way so you guys can see me do it. Okay, I could connect these 2 lines here and give myself a guideline here of about 1 inch, right? And that will help me take my curve and draw in my my neckline. And remember, when you're doing this, the main thing you want to do is make sure you're touching the lines. Remember, this line here, so you don't go in too deep and have something that doesn't look right. And since I'm a little tight on space here, I'm going to connect it here. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay, so this is my neckline. Okay, now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do half of my armhole. And it's easy because I already have it marked here, right? So, but I want to make sure that this is straight up. So I'm coming from my shoulder. Remember, this is not part of my shoulder anymore. And I'm going to come down, straight down here. Okay. Now, here's my chest line here. Okay. Right above the bust line. This is my armhole. All right. So when I'm looking here, I know that when we talked about when you have the front bodice, that you have to remember we've got a bust line in the front. So therefore, we often divide this space in half and go in 3/4. That's standard, right? There's another way you can do it while I'm showing you this shortcut where you can do a blind tailor's measurement. And here's how this goes. You know, we always talk about how our grandparents and mothers could look at a person and just draft a pattern for them, make a pattern and it would fit. Because some things are standard. When I say on the average woman and things like that, I can come pretty close. I could make a pattern and cut it out of muslin and put it on the person using these shortcuts here, these standards. And I would have to do a little bit of nipping and tucking and probably change a few things, but I'd be really, really close. Okay? So here, instead of coming here, just say I didn't know, I saw this person and I was just trying to figure out, had the armhole and I want to go in a little bit. And I know I have to go in 3/4 of an inch on the average. Well, instead of doing that, I could come down here and come in a 1/2 inch or an inch, depending on the size of the person. Okay, so I'm coming in a 1/2 inch because this is a size 8 pattern. Well, I went in let me get rid of some of this so you guys don't get confused. So I came in about a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to take my ruler and from my shoulder tip down to where I marked in, I'm going to connect that. All right. Now nothing's changed here. This still is the end here, but remember there's a difference between the front and the back of the pattern. Okay, so we didn't use the 3/4 of an inch rule here. We did a blind, like we just didn't have some of the measurements on the average. We did an average measure. So we went in an inch here, went in a 1/2 inch here, came down 1 inch here. We didn't do this part. So now what I'm going to do is make my guideline. Okay, same as I did for the neckline. So I'm just drawing a little light line here. That's going to help me get in here and draw my armhole. So pay close attention, guys, because this line here is for the front. I went in a little bit so that this will be longer. The armhole will be longer or bigger in the front than it is in the back. Okay, so pay attention to where my ruler is here. It is touching right where that halfway point would be. It's touching my line here, and it's touching the end of the pattern here. All right, so I'm going to come in. I'm gonna move my ruler around until everything matches up like I want it to match up. So mainly I want to make sure I touch this halfway point, that I don't go in here too deep, so that's why I have my line here, and that I go ahead and here, even though I went in here, we still have to have some ease here, so the ease would be about right there. So I'm gonna take my ruler just about, and there I've got that. Okay, so now I've got my armhole in. I'm going to now do the back armhole. Remember, the paper's folded in half. This is the front. This is going to be the back armhole. For the back armhole, see how I had the straight line I measured straight from here? I'm not going to go in. I'm going to use this straight line, and I'm going to come right here. Same halfway point I'm looking at there. And I'm still gonna mind my rules here. So I've got this touching here, here, and here. Blend it in nicely right here. Okay. Now why don't I take my red pen and put my back armhole in here so you guys can see it. Okay. And of course this doesn't want to work because I'm doing it right. Make sure you have two colored pencils. Now you know why. I think I'll use the blue one here. All right. So this is the black. The blue is for the back. So the line is straight till we get all the way down here. And then I'm making my curve. Starting my curve here. That's the back. I'm just doing this, and you should do it so that you can tell the back of the pattern, the back pattern from the front pattern. Okay, now the only thing that happened here was that I went in 1 inch here for my front, and for the back I did not go in. I just drew the curve in. Now I can connect these points here, and I can take my ruler here and kind of, because we talked about how paper is flat and our bodies are not, so we can draw in a natural looking curve here. Okay, and then I can flip it over and make a nice good shape for my hip line too. I get some of my pattern making stuff out of the way there. So what I'm doing here, and I could use my hip curve for this, but this is pretty good right here. And I'm just making this look nice on the end here. Okay, nice, like we're really shaped. Okay, all right. Now, let's go ahead and do some things we know we have to do, right? We have to come to the bust line, and we have to put in our bust span. Remember, on the average woman, the span from bust tip to bust tip is going to be about 8. So we're going to come in half of that, which would be 4. That would put us right here. And this also is the bust point. So you can put BP here. Bust point. You have the bust point. We're going to take our ruler, and from that point, we're going to square a line straight down to the hip line. Ordinarily, we would stop at the waist, right? We're going to square a line down to the hip line. All the way down. Got it? And then we are going to come down. Remember, we're going to do our bust radius. For the bust radius on a size 8 pattern, we're going to use the smallest amount, meaning that you have some bust but not a lot. And we're going to do our a 1 inch. And if you look at if you're wondering how to do this easy, that's 1 inch from 12 to 13. I've opened this 1 inch, put the sharp part into the pattern, and take it all the way around. And I usually don't do this. I usually just simply measure out, because I know I'm not going to. I want you guys to do this since I sent you guys this compass, and it may help some people. Okay, I'm so used to doing the pattern without it until, there you go. It feels weird doing it. Okay, so now we've got 1 inch here. So we know the top of our dart will be here, but the bottom of our dart is not going to be here anymore, right? Because now we've extended this pattern, and we know that on the bodice we have a waist dart, and on a skirt we have a waist dart, right? So we're going to come down here, and we're going to measure up 2 inches from the hip line, mark it, okay? And right here at the waist, we're going to put in our 1 inch dart. So the way we're going to do this is going to be a fisheye or double-ended dart. So we're going to have our waist dart for the top, and our waist dart for the bottom, the skirt too. So we're going to come over 1 inch on each side. And now we're just going to connect our points. So we'll come here. Come here. And do the same on the other side, okay? And then we'll have we'll have our double-ended dart, okay? All right. We've got our bust point. We've got our waist dart for the top, waist dart for the skirt. All right. Cool. Okay, now we would be done, but I want to do one more thing. I want to come up here. Remember, we're drafting the front and back at the same time. So we've got our line in here for our front and back with the armhole, but one thing we don't have is the difference between the neckline in the front and the back. Now, anytime you have a neckline, we've got it even here, okay? So if I was doing the back, I would just ordinarily, the back would be just as deep as the front, okay? But we know that that's not how it is. Anytime you have a pattern and you have the front, the deeper the front is, okay, the higher the back is going to have to be to support it. And you'll learn that when you're drafting for blouses and dresses. So what I'm going to do here is instead of making this even here, I'm just going to have come down 1 inch. I want my back neckline to be up a little bit higher. I'm still going to keep this part here, but I'm going to have the neckline not be as deep as it is in the front. Okay, so let me go ahead and just draw that in. And of course, it's not going to be that big of, that much of a curve, because again, I just want it to be supportive for the front. Okay, so that's my back. And since it is, and we know that everything that represents the back, we want to go ahead and make sure we mark that so we can know the difference. The back is in blue. Okay? All right, so before I transfer to the back, what I'm going to keep, I want to go over what we did so far. Okay?